While serving in Afghanistan, what was the common attitude of your platoon?
Well, I think the first thing of that is I didn't have a common platoon when I was there.
Yeah.
If you saw the movie,
Yeah.
we weren't there like a normal unit. We were
Uh-huh.
just there as a group of senior leaders, NCOs and officers
Yeah.
who were part of a team that trained the Afghan army.
Mhm.
So our platoon was actually made up of, there were 4 platoons of Afghans. So for that reason alone, the attitude was, well, difficult to tell because they were all Afghans and not typically U.S. soldiers.
Okay. So my next question. For the most part, how is your relationship with the local Afghanis?
Volatile and
Yeah.
often violent. For the most part, I think the general population was just confused and didn't really know what our purpose was there. We were in a remote area of Afghanistan that media didn't get. No, there wasn't any media. They didn't have television. They had very little radios. It was all very controlled. So, for the most part, they didn't really know what we were doing or why we were doing it. So they were pretty hostile. They were like you would be if somebody just showed up in your neighborhood with guns.
Yeah. Okay. During your time there, what were your biggest fears?
I think some of the biggest fears was letting down your other soldiers. You wanted to make sure that you did your job and you did it well, and you sure didn't want to get anybody hurt because of any mistakes that you made.
Yeah.
So obviously your professionalism was high on your priorities. I was worried about my family back home.
Yeah.
That was a big issue, was making sure that they were okay, and not to be morbid, but that they would be okay if something happened to me while I was there.
Yeah, definitely. What common misconceptions do you see and hear about in the war on terror?
Oh, man, we could do a 2-hour-long documentary on just that long. Common misconceptions. If you watch the media, and I'm sure you guys probably talk about how the media dictates the public attitude. Everybody talks about Fox or CNN or MSNBC and how there's different agendas, and each media outlet will push an agenda, and depending on how you feel about it is which bowl of Kool-Aid you drink out of.
Yeah.
And I think both of them are a little bit swayed. I don't think anybody, unless you've been there, really understands the conception or why we're there. So I think for the most part you get 2 extreme points of view. Either everybody's convinced that all Muslims are bad and anybody who lives over there is evil. That's one misconception that's absolutely wrong. Or on the other hand, that there is no violence and that this is some big conspiracy that everybody's just making money off of this and nothing bad is really going on. That's obviously equally as wrong.
How big of a problem were IEDs, and what kinds of troubles did you experience with them?
IEDs are horrible.
Yeah.
They're the probably the bane of our existence over there.
Yeah.
The difficult thing about IEDs is how difficult they are to detect, and there's very little you can do to be proactive about one that's well hidden. Obviously, we do our best to try to identify them, the right way. But unfortunately, all too often we're rolling over these bombs in the road, and they're having catastrophic effects on us.
Yeah, definitely.
So they're a huge, huge problem, and they're a large morale defeater.
Yeah,
those things are terrible.
Yeah, it seemed that way in that movie, which is why I asked that.
Yep.
What do you know about PTSD?
Well, post-traumatic stress disorder, I think, is a very real thing, and I think it affects everybody differently. I think it would be a shame to put a blanket label of PTSD on somebody and just assume that what their problems are or how they're affected. I think most people who are in combat have some form of PTSD.
Yeah.
But I think it varies greatly from person to person.
Yeah. What kind of experiences have you had with it and others you know?
Personally, I think it's kind of a cycle. You come back. I've been home now for just over 2 years, and for the first 6 months, everything's great. It's the honeymoon phase. You're home. Nobody can do any wrong. Kids and family is wonderful, but eventually reality kicks in that you are back there. You've got responsibilities and things like that, and it's for me personally, it was very difficult to take anything very seriously.
Yeah.
Because on any day to day, it was truly a life or death situation, and I sit in my office now. I've got a Starbucks down the street. I got a Subway right there. I don't want for much. And, it's kind of hard to get excited about something that's not quite so extreme.
Yeah.
So that's a real issue. And I've got some friends that are having a more difficult time coping with being back. A lot of reflection on what happened and having a hard time accepting a lot of it and coping with that sort of thing. Lots of sleep.
Yeah. When you returned to the U.S., what kind of help was offered to you?
The VA has a bad rep, and they're doing a great job of overcoming it. Our Veterans Affairs Department, that's a government-run entity.
Yeah.
After Vietnam, there was a lot of there were movies made about how bad they were. There was a lot of publicity, and a lot of it was legitimate. It was fairly poorly run for quite a while and not funded very well. But in my experience, that's quite different now. I think the VA has been very proactive, very responsive. If you need somebody, if you need help, there's plenty of ways to get it.
Yeah.
So the biggest challenge is getting people to ask for it.
Yeah.
It's there and it's available, but most people don't want to ask for it.
What changes did you experience with your relationships with family and friends when you returned?
It was difficult to get to know my family again at first. My daughter, if you saw the movie, my daughter didn't really know me.
Yeah.
So obviously we were rebuilding our relationship. My son was opposite. He was attached to my hip instantly and wouldn't leave my side. And my wife and I had to learn how to live together again. She had taken over all of the responsibilities of being at home. Not only did she work full time, but she was paying the bills, taking out the trash, mowing the yard, doing everything. So when I came back, we had to learn how, our roles and responsibilities, and not to overstep somebody else's boundaries. And that can be difficult to do.
Yeah.
So fortunately, it's worked out. But for a while, it was, touchy. You had to be very careful around each other. Some of my friends, we've picked right back up where we've left off, and there are others who it just didn't reconnect for whatever reason. So I don't think it's any different than anybody being gone for a particularly long period of time. Time changes people.
Yeah, definitely. What are your current relationships like with your platoon members or the guys you went down with?
Fantastic for the most part.
Yeah.
I think we were spread out in age. And I think some of us just connected well together more than some others. And for those of us who did connect well together, we're still very close. We talk regularly.
Yeah.
We're doing events together regularly. Yeah. Obviously, we were in that documentary together. So it's actually, created a good support mechanism, and it's just made some good new friends. So very good.
Yeah, that's the way I think it should be. What are some traumatic memories that you'll be willing to share about your experience in the Middle East?
Well, nobody likes it when your soldiers and your friends get killed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty blunt, obvious statement.
Yeah.
That's traumatic. That's hard to cope with.
Yeah.
So obvious. We lost a few of our guys, and I was there when it happened, so that's very difficult to cope with. I lost a lot of Afghan soldiers that were under my leadership, and although they're not U.S. soldiers and we didn't speak the same language, it's still equally as difficult. These are guys that are under your watch, and you don't want to see them get hurt or killed, and they do. That's just part of it, but it's difficult.
Okay. What are some of your best memories from Afghanistan?
I think successful missions, missions that you put a lot of time and effort into planning, and they go off well, and you get the desired results. Certain raids and ambushes we did that worked really well. It's like practicing football plays and then having it actually work and getting a touchdown in a game. It's just exciting to see something pay off. And you know, in the big picture, I guess there are some folks over there that I think we genuinely helped. You know, some kids that were getting school supplies, wounded civilians over there that were getting good treatment, good care. And in a lot of ways, we spent a lot of money and time into the infrastructure of some small towns that we were in, building wells, building mosques. So, although my experience was primarily a violent one while I was there, you know, there were glimmers of hope and some positive things that came out of it.
That's good. What is your belief on what went on / is going on in the Middle East? Just kind of an overall.
Well, I think it's a very difficult mission, you know, and it's very ambiguous as far as exactly what the goals are at this point. We've been doing it for so long. I think our goals have adjusted and changed quite a bit over the last few years. So, you know, I hope we're making a positive effect, and I hope we can wrap it up very soon.
Yeah. What changes would you like to see be done on the war on terror?
Changes, exactly?
Yeah, kind of like military changes or
well, a clear defined goal that I think the public can get behind is important to have. And of course, you know, we're continually getting better equipment. We're continually getting better vehicles. And as long as we can continue to receive the latest and greatest technology, which we have been, you know, we're moving in the right direction. Public support's been fantastic.
What are your views and thoughts on the Taliban?
They're dirty little bastards, and we need to kill as many of them as we can. Sorry, you know, maybe you should be careful with the air of that. Maybe you should
put that one on.
No, the Taliban is it's an extreme religious group. They're extremist Muslims. They're not indicative of the Muslim population or religion as a whole. And you know, I guess the best way I can correlate it is they're what the Nazis were to Germany. You know, they're just a very bigotist group of people who are violent and, in my opinion, are doing no good for anyone. So the quicker we can be done with them, the better.
What kind of impact did 9/11 have on you?
It was very emotional, obviously. I remember very clearly where I was and what I was doing. I was already in the military at the time, so I immediately assumed it was going to affect me. It took a little bit longer for it to reach out and grab me personally, but I watched a lot of my close friends go. Matter of fact, I enlisted my office partner and watched him head off immediately, and I was very jealous that I couldn't go with him, but finally got my chance to go do my thing. But it's changed life as I've known it. I was a young adult when it happened, and over the last 10, almost 11 years now, you know, it's completely changed life as we know it.
Where were you, and what was first going through your head when you heard Osama bin Laden had been killed?
I was barbecuing out in my backyard. Somebody standing next to me got a text from somebody, and they looked over and they said, "Hey, we got Osama. He's dead." And I thought at first they were kidding, and then my next reaction was, "Huh, well, I assumed he'd been dead anyway." You know, that's half the reason why we weren't getting him. But you know, I'm glad he's gone. He was a bad guy, needed to go away. But I don't know that it's having a great deal of effect on folks who are in Afghanistan right now. You know, I don't want to lose sight of what we're doing and how this war is more than just about Osama bin Laden. Even though he's dead, that's great. But there's plenty of bad guys out there doing bad things right now that we need to continue to focus on. So good that he's gone, but let's not lose sight of what we're doing.
Overall, are you happy you served and had the experience that you did in Afghanistan?
Absolutely. Hands down. Very proud of it, very proud of the people I was with. You know, I think it's an experience that I'll be better for. And as violent as it was, I don't think I'd change very much.
What else would you like to share with me about your knowledge in the Middle East and what you experienced there?
I think you got the gist of it for the most part. It's an ugly situation, and it's difficult to
Yeah.